welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for Capricorn season, which runs from December 2025 to January 2026. I hope you are well. I'm using the 777 tarot here. It's a Bulgarian deck I picked up on Christmas Eve. It's absolutely extraordinary. I love it. Can't wait to use it with you. Anyway, before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. Links for those are down in the description box below. You're looking for the link that either takes you to Selfie if you just want to buy one video, or you could come join my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. There you can get access to all of the extended content that I do, which is not just the extendeds for each of the signs, but also weekly energy readings. I've done deck walkthroughs in there. And if you join at the higher tier, you can come participate in the live classes that we run over there in all sorts of modalities, not just tarot, chaos magic and astrology and all sorts of things. So you've got access to all of the recordings as well for all of the classes that we did for 2025. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, I am actually running a 7-day free trial, so you are very welcome to come check it out, see if it's for you. If not, no issue at all. But if you like it and you want to stay, I think it's a good place to be. So, with all of that, let's get some cards out on the table. Now, here, where we would usually do recent past, and we're talking about sort of, whatever's happened in the last 6 weeks, this has actually turned out to be a bit of a retrospective over 2025. So we're going to be pulling 3 cards for each of the positions, just for this set of readings. We'll go back to the more standard way of doing it before. And just to say, if you haven't seen the Messages from Capricorn season video, and maybe link it at the end, you should watch that too, because these are meant to be companion readings. So let's have a look for Virgo, please. Right, we have Queen of Wands in reverse. Ooh. And we have the 2 of Wands. And we have the Ace of Swords on its side. Goodness. All right, then. And what about current energy, please, for Virgo? What does Virgo need to know? We have Page of Pentacles, the Chariot, and whatever this is that has landed on my arm. We've got a Knight of Wands in reverse. And what about Capricorn season for Virgo, please? 7 of Wands. Let's have a look. What do we have here? Page of Cups on its side. And one more. 3 of Swords in reverse. I like that. I like that a lot. We've got the 9 of Cups at the bottom of the deck. So before we get some clarifiers out, let's just have a look at the feeling of what we've got going on here, right? The overwhelming feeling that I get from these 3 cards is the sense that you don't really feel too much like you've moved forwards. Now, there could have been changes that have happened in your material environment. You might have moved house. You might have done a few things on that kind of front. But it's like the real progress has been very, very slow. And maybe for some of you, there has been some resistance in what has come up. Now, I'm pleased to report that I think you're exactly where you need to be, Virgo. I think we're always where we need to be. But the South Node moving through your sign has been arduous, let's put it like that. And a lot of what's happened has been about unpicking what has potentially been a lifetime in the developing. And that's always going to be something that is slow. Now, we've got if there's so much fucking frustration here, Virgo, I can't even tell you the frustration that I'm feeling when I'm looking at these cards on your behalf. Now, I actually have 2 placements in Virgo, myself, my Jupiter and my Saturn are both in Virgo. So I know it's difficult when you make a plan and you've been trying to make a plan all year, and then everything seems to dissolve in front of you, right? The Ace of Swords on its side is interesting because the Ace of Swords in the upright generally is a card of clarity and, paradigm shattering realizations, epiphanies, if you will, right? Where we see things differently and we can more easily discern between what is fact and what is fiction in our own heads as well as out there in the world. And it's here, but it's uncommitted. Not to say that you're uncommitted, Virgo, but the state of discernment is uncommitted. Have we done all of the work? No. 2025 was not about doing all of the work. Neither was it about seeing where all the the deceptions and the falsehoods were. Simply to say that it's about recognizing that you don't need to always believe what you think, which is an interesting message. And it's like the truth is there, but it's taking a lot longer to get to it than one would hope. Well, the Queen of Wands in reverse is interesting because for me the Queens help us make sense of whatever suit they represent, right? So in the case of the Queen of Wands here, she would help us make sense of our drives, our motivations, our passions, what we do, why we do it, what we hope to get out of it, what we're trying to get out of any particular, thing that we engage with. It's very much about experience. It's very much on behaviours and actions and those kinds of things, right? So where a Queen shows up in the reverse, she's really not having the opportunity to make much sense of anything, actually. And I feel like the more that 2025 dragged on for you, the less able you were to put your hand on the evidence, the facts, the real stuff about where your drives and motivations come from. Like for some of you, there may have been the realization that a lot of the things that you thought drove you don't. And a lot of the things that did drive you were things like guilt or shame. And in the absence of those things, because I do think the thrust of the year has been towards very slow healing, and certainly getting towards the idea of what makes you happy versus what makes everybody else happy, because you are a service-oriented sign, you're a healer. All Virgos are healers in one way or another, right? To realise that you've perhaps been driven by a fear of judgment, a fear of criticism, a fear of failing to achieve perfection, but simultaneously doing the work to heal yourself and realising that absent those drives now, you don't know what moves you forwards. You don't know how to make yourself move forwards. It's complex, but it's very much in the spirit of the balancing of the South Node, right? Let's get some clarifiers out here to talk about these. So we have the Two of Swords, well, of course. Interesting. We have the Two of Cups as well. And then we have two cards that are in the reverse. Yeah, Eight of Wands and the Page of Pentacles in reverse with the Four of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Now notice how many cards we have number 2 here. For me, the 2 is always about the internal and the, frankly, subjective experience. They all talk about decisions and choices and that sort of thing. Generally speaking, the willingness to be vulnerable enough to come together with somebody in a shared space, right? And all that sort of thing. But what I feel here is questioning. It's a questioning of everything because nothing makes sense in the way that it used to before. The Two of Wands is feeling constantly like one is at a crossroads moment. But how the fuck are you supposed to decide which way you're going when you don't even know what it is that drives you? Like the truth has been so elusive this year, and maybe that's the point for you, Virgo. I feel like Virgo quite likes binaries, right? Virgo is a Mercury ruled sign. It likes facts, it likes evidence, it likes intelligent analysis. And it feels like everything that it has been to be you this year has seemed to exist in the shades of grey. It seems to have altogether evaded an idea of being able to be intelligently analysed. It's had to be felt. And where has the movement happened? Well, kind of nowhere, really. The Eight of Wands in reverse is it's a card of stasis. Queen of Wands in reverse is a card of stasis. The Two of Swords is a card of stasis, and realistically so is the Two of Wands, because we're still at the decision-making stage, right? We have not started actioning anything at this point. I would not be surprised to find out that most Virgos have felt a little bit like they've taken 2 steps forwards and exactly 2 steps back, and something's changed, but it's difficult to work out exactly what it is that has changed. Because everything has been about getting down to the root of things with you. Like, I feel like 2025 was more about kind of stripping things out and then reassessing, where does the land lie? How do I feel about this? I'm not really sure how I feel about this. And I'm not really sure how I feel about that. Whatever it is, there hasn't been a sense of picking up speed. It's been a long, slow trudge. And like I said, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. But with the idea, with the realization that something has changed each time, but can you put your finger on it? Can you get right down to the very sharp edge of it? I think not. Like the facts, the evidence, the binaries, the sharp, incisive thinking, it's just been a slog. Everything about 2025 was a slog for you. Now, again, very much in keeping with the South Node going through your sign. You know, as a Leo, I am not looking forward to the South Node hitting my sign. Because I don't just have one placement in Leo. I'm not just a Leo Sun. I'm a Leo Sun, Moon, Mercury, North Node, and Vertex. So, you know. Anyhow. The South Node is the more spiritual position because it is that constant balancing act. And it seems like what you started to understand is that there are grey places. And this is not crisp and clean and clinical like you like things. In fact, it's been anything but. It's been messy, it's been chaotic, it's been elusive. But I really feel like the biggest issue here for you has been simply your comprehension of what has been going on. I taught a class a few months ago on the negative cards in the tarot, right? And I put negative, right, in air quotes. I put almost the entire suit of swords in there. Because I think as a cycle, it represents a lurch towards cognitive crisis over and over again, right? This is how we change our mind. This is how we change our worldview. This is how we grow and mature. You know, what we think are absolute cast iron certainties when we're 7 are absolutely not the same situation by the time we're 30, right? And equally, those things that we thought were, you know, cast iron at 30, by the time we hit 45, 50, we're like, yeah, sometimes, but not always, right? And it's the evolution of your own mental paradigm that is represented by this lurch towards cognitive crisis. Now, you are accustomed to using your mind to work out what is happening, always. But it feels like, to some extent, the universe has tied your mental hands behind your back, right? We've got the Ace of Swords on its side. We've got the Two of Swords showing up. Right? Something quite static about that energy there, trying rigidly to hold everything in alignment. But what's been being pushed instead is this idea of your own creativity, your own voice, your own spirit, Virgo. That's a really strong message. Because the Page of Pentacles in reverse says you haven't really known what it was, what the value of it was, how to access it. So this you know, wading thigh deep through the sludge that has been 2025 for you has been as much about forcing you to lean into what else you have at your disposal aside from your mind. Does it have the crisp clarity that we would like? No, it hasn't. But nevertheless, things have changed. You know, when we first start doing personal work, right, when we sort of even just first come across the concept of it, it's like we have these big explosive breakthroughs. Oh, right, fuck. Okay, I grew up in an abusive household, for instance. Or, oh my God, you know, my parents triangulated me all the time against my siblings, or you know, used my siblings to triangulate against me. Or, you know, these patterns of behaviors that I didn't understand that I had, they were a direct response to sexual abuse or psychological abuse. And the reason why I got together with narcissists is because this is what I was comfortable with, right? These are all huge revelations. And they totally change the way that you see yourself and the way that you see everything, right? Once you realize these things. But I think when it comes to personal work, there is something, and it makes sense that it would be, something along the lines of a law of diminishing returns. So the deeper you get in, the less it is the explosions, the fireworks going off. Holy shit, now I understand myself, you know, that kind of thing. It's subtler and subtler and subtler. So we get to a point where there are things changing that we don't even necessarily recognize. Like just as I was saying here, it feels like you had your mental hands tied behind your back. Something is shifting, but we don't really know what it is. And something has shifted and we don't really know why. Nevertheless, it's happening. We don't have that massive epiphany moment. Holy shit, everything's different now. It's just, it is different. And the things that used to mean something don't mean anything anymore. And the things that never used to mean anything suddenly seem to be very much more important. Can we nail down why? No. It's just growth. It's just development. And honestly, Virgo, it's a bit of a trope, but I think you've been really hard on yourself over 2025. I think you struggled. I think, to be fair, I think most people struggled through 2025, right? But the things that have shifted almost defy explanation. They almost defy intelligent analysis and articulation. Some things are not meant to have a clear-cut definition. They just are. Just as you just are, you know? You've been rebuilding yourself from the ground up, but it's been a sieving and sorting process as you've gone. And you've had to do it without, I think, that mercurial energy at your disposal. No, it's probably been there, but like I said, you know, what you've been working through has kind of defied the more mercurial ways of working with it. And then we come to now. Now, we have the Chariot and we have the Knight of Wands, and to some extent, you know, they are similar energies. They both talk about moving forwards, right? Or in the case of the Knight of Wands, kind of moving sideways, backwards, whichever way they feel like doing. There's an impetuousness, is what I'm trying to say, about the Knight of Wands. And it's certainly not disciplined or committed or or interested in the consequential. And this is why these two cards actually mean different things. Although they both denote movement, they're talking about a different kind of movement, right? So the Knight of Wands is very much about the hedonistic, the adventurous, the thrilling, right? The adrenaline dump of doing something a little bit risky. The Chariot is something altogether more stamina filled. Because the Chariot is about determination. It's about the victory that comes when you know where you're going and how you're going to get there. And most importantly, you are able to control the polarizing forces that live within you, right? Rather than trying to pretend that they don't exist. So recognizing that you have a dark side, recognizing that you have fears, recognizing that, you know, that shadowy things exist within you, and integrating that knowledge. Rather than trying to pretend that it's not you. It's for this reason that for me the Chariot card comes to be a card of shadow work. Because we have the light and the dark, the night and the day, right? The polarity that is implied by the presence of the two beasts. And the charioteer who is controlling them both, right? This is the conscious mind holding all things to do with self in alignment. This is how victory happens. This is how stability happens, right? If those two horses were not being adequately controlled, would pull in different directions, flip the chariot over. Job is not a good one. But with the right amount of self-control, the right amount of integration, the right amount of aligned energy, this chariot can go anywhere. That's how the victory and success occurs. So this thrill-seeking, adventurous, live in the moment, you know, not be interested in consequences, so on, that we associate with the Knight of Wands is not your path, Virgo. It never was your path. I think there was a period where the Knight of Wands was a dominant energy. It was around about 2021, I think. It kept coming in, like it had something to share with you. It had something to tell you. But not so here. Because the things that have happened to you over 2025 and where you find yourself right now, which I'm glad to say has the Page of Pentacles in the upright putting in an appearance, is starting to recognize the value of what has shifted, even if you do not understand it in a way that you would ordinarily like to understand where you are and what you're doing and what you think and what you feel and all that kind of thing, right? Let's pull out some clarifiers here. This Chariot card. Six of Pentacles, the Devil, the Emperor, Eight of Swords. Oh, look at that. Ten of Cups is there as well. Now we've got two very strong energies here in the Emperor and the Devil. They represent the sign of Aries and Capricorn respectively, which is quite interesting because they're both cardinal, right? Virgo is a mutable or double-bodied sign. But what we have here in these two are the energies of all the choice, all the decisions, all the responsibility, all the autonomy, all the sovereignty of the Emperor, the control, but in the right place. And then the Devil, feeling out of control, feeling powerlessness, feeling like we have no choice but to be where we are, even if we don't like it. It's less scary than being somewhere else, right? At this point in time. It's really interesting to me that these two should have come up when we've been talking about the Chariot and balancing forces. Now, it's not true to say that these are opposites of each other, but the amount of self-possessedness in the Emperor versus the absolute lack of that, which is the message of the Devil, is really, really fascinating to me. And between the Chariot card, a card of balance and alignment. And the Six of Pentacles that we've got here, and the Page of Pentacles, and the energy of family and community, and how things should be done, the happily ever after that you've always been looking for, or maybe trying to replicate from your childhood or whatever, right? And this Eight of Swords here and Nine of Cups here, what we've got is a picture that is emerging of someone who is starting to understand that it is not just black and white, right? There are shades of grey for sure, and there are ways to succeed and there are ways to fail, and almost all of them depend on your mindset. It's less about the outcome, Virgo, is what I'm really seeing here. The whole purpose of what you have been through and where you find yourself right now is finding that balancing point. South Node balancing, Chariot balancing, Six of Pentacles balancing, even these two cards here balancing. You know, this Ten of Cups actually feels to me like the difference between expectation and reality, and the extent to which the reality has not met the expectations, whether it's, you know, within family dynamics or friendship groups or community or whatever. But like just the dominant happily ever after. Why don't I get for things to be easy? It would be nice if the universe took its boot off my throat, for example. But there's something very interesting about that as a position. Because that as a position would be someone who didn't understand the value of what they had been experiencing. And that's what shifted here. Page of Pentacles is saying you are starting to see the value of it. Not because you necessarily think about things too differently, but you feel different. You're responding to them differently. I would go as far as to say you're starting to feel your way out of a mental stasis. Because what felt like a cruel handicap over here that the universe had imposed on you. No, you don't get to think about things clearly. You don't get to have that, you know, enormous breakthrough moment where everything just falls into place and can be neatly categorized in a place in your head. It's been the thing that's caused you to lean into what you do have access to. And subtly, things are changing as a result. I will never not fucking sing the praises of the Eight of Swords. I love this fucking card so much. I realise I'm probably in a group of one. But really, I cannot tell you how much fucking profound wisdom is there. It is the problem, but it's also the solution. Whether you can see it or not is a matter of the Eight of Swords, right? It's the way that you've been thinking about things, not what you've been thinking. It is perhaps the dominance of the mind trying to help you make your way through that has caused the problems, right? This card here is Jupiter in Gemini. Expanding swords is never the way. It's never the answer. Because we end up at a cul-de-sac, we end up at a dead end, and we're like, how the fuck do I move forwards from here? Well, you can't think your way out of it unless you recognize that it is your thinking that is the problem, and if it's your thinking that's the problem, you have to take a step back from that. It feels to me like the pennies are dropping, the pentacles, if you will, are dropping for you, Virgo. Again, still defying explanation, but nevertheless starting to feel like you can move towards what feels more fulfilling for you, what feels right for you. Even just the analysis of the idea of, or the engaging with the idea of something feeling good to you rather than being service oriented for other people. 2026 is nothing if not the year of fire, of the I. I want, I don't want, I like, I don't like, yes, no, these sorts of things, right? It's almost like you needed to be kicked out of the way that you have been trained and conditioned to think about things, to do it differently, to feel differently, to even feel yourself within that sovereignty, autonomy, all those kind of things, before you could start contemplating. Maybe even before you could start emotionally regulating properly. Because when we come into the rest of Capricorn season, we have the Seven of Wands, we have that Page of Cups on its side, and we have the Three of Swords in reverse. And we'll start with the Three of Swords. Again, another card that I fucking love. And I love it because when the Three of Swords shows up, what we can be absolutely assured of is that we are dealing with something that is much closer to the truth of reality than what we have been working to before. It may still not be yet understood by us. Nevertheless, what we're not dealing with is the obfuscatory nature of what we actually what we would like to be happening versus what actually is happening, right? Now, for me, the Three of Swords in there, it's like, look at these cards, man, aren't they stunning? The Three of Swords in reverse is a state of allowing the swords to naturally fall out on their own, right? Gravity is doing the work here, rather than a kind of intense course of shadow work study where you're having to journal, everything and be engaged in all of these confrontational works. I would say for you, Virgo, that the lack of certainty that you have been fielding for the last 12 months has been the very place where you needed to be, right? To learn to accept that not all things are certain, not all things can be simply categorized into black or white. Sometimes we must wait, sometimes we must be patient, sometimes we must feel our way forward, sometimes we have to sit in an uncertain place, feeling uncomfortable, deprived of what is our default ways of being, for long enough to show us how knotted up we've got our own minds. I like the fact that the Page of Cups is there because although he's not yet in the upright, he's kind of shuffling along, right? He's like, I'm here. There's an energy here that's ready to begin to start being accessed. The pages for me are new starts, but the new starts taking something that you already have and beginning the process of moving forwards in a different way with those, right? Now, around the idea of what feels good to you, what is emotional regulation to you, rather than what you've been told, or, what is a response to your environment, whatever you're in, but what is something that is internally generated and coming from you. Like, this energy is shuffling in Capricorn season because you are able to sit with that now. The healing that's been happening has been long, slow, arduous, but gravity's doing its job. It's pulling those swords out of the heart muscle, and what they leave in their stead is much closer to what reality actually is than what you have been working with. And then we have the Seven of Wands, Mars in Leo. There's so much bravery in this card, as you would expect, right? It's a Leo card, so we've got themes of bravery already. But it's kind of, big heroic acts of bravery because it's Leo. But when we've got Mars in the mix as well, It's like acting from a place of bravery, which isn't not feeling fear. It's just recognizing that it is what it is and we're going to get it done anyway, you know? Now, interestingly, Mars in Leo isn't that fast. Leo's quite a slow sign for all being their fire sign, you know. Faster than Earth, obviously, but still quite slow for fire. And the message of the cards is really quite simple, because I feel like for you it all revolves around this idea of recognizing that you are you and you have a self, and that self is worth defending. Not in a defensive, oh my god, I'm being attacked by everyone, right? But just kind of standing in your own space and going, okay, this is what I am. I'm healing. I don't really understand what's going on. I don't know this. I don't know that. Don't know the other. And that's okay. I'm going to be here anyway. Like I said, what you've been working with here, Virgo, has been probably decades in the creating. This was never going to be like a 1 week introspective that was going to fix all of this. Fucking hell. Ooh, look at that. Queen of Wands in the upright. And the Ten of Wands. The World. The Moon. Queen of Pentacles. This I like. I like this a lot. Why do I like it? Because there's uncertainty there, Virgo. I don't see a rejection of uncertainty. I see somebody who understands the value of the uncertainty and understands the value of carrying the burden of uncertainty. Because it is in that uncertain place where things feel like they are a little bit unstable that, oh, what's that old saying, right? The cracks are where the light gets in. Something along those lines, yeah. We don't have a Queen of Swords here. Gonna feel like you might have been happier back here if the Queen of Swords had shown up somewhere. You don't need help working out what you think. You've needed help accessing your why. And it's a why that's come through a channel other than a mental one. The Ten of Wands is the end of a cycle. It's the end of burden, but it's usually an end of burden that comes from just having had enough. Fuck this. I can't do this any longer. I can't carry these wands any longer. I'm going to have to put the fucking things down. And then we have relief. We have the relief that comes by way of the Ace of Wands, right? Something new gets ignited, a new passion, a new way of expressing creativity. A new way of doing things, a new way of experiencing things, a new why, perhaps. Things are never going to be clear where the moon is involved. And honestly, I'm feeling like you're feeling that's okay. I feel like the straw that breaks the camel's back with you, possibly, is it's taking too much fucking effort to try and engage my brain on why all this has happened. Trying to lean into a default pattern of doing things. I was like, just put the fucking burden down and be done with the fact that it is what it is. Because this World card at the bottom of the deck says you have come to the end of a cycle, just as the Ten of Wands does, right? But this World card is much bigger in its scope. It's a card that says, well done, you passed the test, you got through it. Does it mean anything will move any faster? Probably not. Not for a bit. Soon it'll be moving faster than any of us would like. But for the rest of Capricorn season, it's about recognizing that something unnameable has shifted so much because you allowed it to. Allowed it to might be a bit of a stretch, right? I've been forced kicking and screaming into it. But having been somebody who's fought the universe on all sorts of things for extended periods of time, there is a point where you just go, I can't fucking do this anymore. I'm just going to stop. And then things just improve. I like this for you, Virgo. I feel like it's letting you tap into something now that a lot of your mental bullshit is out of the way. And I think that a lot of this was stuff that you didn't even realise was bullshit, right? But to move from the Queen of Wands in the reverse to the Queen of Wands in the upright, I think is pretty canny, personally. And then to get that Queen of Pentacles in the mix as well. I don't want to say things are going to get easier from here because I don't think anybody's in for an easy 2026. But I think this particular chapter of this particular bit of the lesson, this bit of the curriculum, is probably closing out now, which is putting you in a much better position to be able to field the uncertainty of 2026 without the need for, you know, all of the answers neatly categorized. Without the need to expend so much mental energy on analyzing everything. The emphasis is very much on the do here, Virgo. Allow yourself to do. The takeaway? Allow yourself to do what you'd like to do. When was the last time you did that? You know? Alright, I'm going to go... fucking hell, blathering on for ages. I'm going to go to the extended now, and we're going to look specifically at the rest of Capricorn season. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. Like I said, links are in the description box below. You can come join me on Selfie, you can join me on Circle. I would be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not for you, that's fine. I mean, I would go make yourself a cup of tea, to be honest, and just pat yourself on the back, because getting through 2025 is no fucking mean feat for anyone. So if you're still here and you've kept on keeping on, then props to you. Right, I shall away. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.